I'm going to talk about this box, and this box, and this box, and these. I'm going to teach you all how to grow, how to plant a container full of plants that is basically self-sufficient. Once we get this box made up today, you'll be able to go and plant an entirety of crops in this box. Almost any vegetable crop or flower crop will grow in this box, and some fruit crops, we'll talk about that. And then the only thing you'll have to do is water it once in a while. We're going to put all the nutrients in the soil before we plant. We're going to set up a little watering system for it. Let me tell you about this little box here. These things are cool. So you can grow in any container, right? You could poke a few holes in the bottom of this. Any container needs drainage, by the way. But you could poke a few holes in the bottom of this, and I would paint the inside of it black so that light doesn't get into the roots. In fact, what I would do is I would paint the inside of it white, and then I would paint the white paint black, because the white's going to reflect all the heat on the outside, and the black is going to keep the light out from the inside. So I'd go white and then black. Poke a few holes in it. Maybe put a little screen down at the bottom so that your soil mix doesn't fall out. And then I could plant this thing. And all I have to do is keep it watered and maybe a little fertilizer once in a while. Any container will do. You could take an old watering can that developed a leak and turn it into a planter. Why not? So you can do all these things. Urban ag, as Michelet was talking about earlier, urban ag doesn't have to be big tractors. Most times it's not. It's not big tractors. It's small beds or container farming or hydroponic or aeroponic farming where there's not actually any solid soil or soilless mix like this at all. So you can do any of that. These things I picked up at a local home improvement store, right? A local home improvement store. There's all kinds of these. You can find them on the web and stuff. This one here comes with a few parts. First, it's got the box here, right? It's got the container. This container is 20 by 24, I guess. Yeah, about 20 by 24. It comes with this little thing on the inside, right? That little comes with this little rack on the inside. See, it's got those little feet down in there to hold this rack off the bottom. That's going to the bottom is going to act as a water reservoir in this pot. So there are no holes in this pot. There are, but the hole on this pot is right there. It's way above the bottom. Can you all see that? The hole on that is way above the bottom. That's because I want an inch of water in the bottom of this, so it'll soak up into the soil and provide water for the plants between waterings. Now, I've started on this one. It comes with wheels. These bigger ones come with wheels. And I've put 3 of the wheels in already. But it's not that hard to put them in. Well, now this one broke on me. That's no fun. That's no fun at all. I may have to. But imagine, and it looks like I'm going to be able to glue it back together. I can actually get some of that magic, that high-strength glue where the guy's hanging from his hard hat on the beam. I get some of that. It works great on this stuff. Works great on this stuff. It's cyanoacrylic is what the type of glue is. But I'll glue that back together. But these just push right in there like that. It's easy breezy. Easy breezy. Now I'm going to turn that over. I'm going to leave the wheels on it. So I got wheels and I got a box. I got a grate here to keep the soil out of the water. This is a little bonnet. This is going to keep a little more moisture in the soil. It's going to slide right over the top of this after I fill this up with the media. Okay? This is my watering pipe. Goes down in one of the corners of this thing. It's going to go down in one of the corners like that. So it just sits down in one of the corners, and it's designed for me to water it. Now it's actually, it goes right down in there. So there you go. I'm actually going to put it on this one here. You need a picture? There you go. All right.
You said this was good.
This is a watering pipe. So this Who knows what the end of a watering can thing is called? This little sprinkler nozzle on the end is. You know what they call that in the trade? That's called the daisy. That's called the daisy. So I took the daisy off because now I got a small hole and I'll be able to water right into that. Okay? So there you go. So that little screen there is called the daisy. There's your new word of the day. The word of the day is daisy. Okay? So on this one corner, it has a little stand for my pipe. So my pipe is going to go on this corner right here. And I'm going to put that in, and then I'm going to start filling the box with soil. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to put soil in this thing. I'm going to fill it up. And I'm not going to use soil, by the way. What am I going to use instead? She's close. Whoever said... I'm not going to use foam. Compost could be part of it, yes. But I'm using a soilless mix here. In the trade, we call this substrate now, but media is okay and potting mix is okay. You want as light a potting mix for these pots as you can. This is a brand that is mostly peat moss. The white stuff in it is perlite. Perlite is an expanded volcanic rock. Sometimes there'll be pieces of bark in here. Sometimes there'll be some compost. They make other kinds of this stuff that's really heavy and black. See how brown, this is brown and light? They make a black and heavy one. That's really not good for this. That's too heavy for this. It's going to hold too much water. We don't use soil in a pot ever, because soil in a pot, when you use field soil, garden soil in a pot, water has to be able to move. Out in nature, water moves all through the soil in all directions. It moves down, it moves sideways in all directions. And it moves up into the air by evaporation. In a pot like this, the water can only move one way, and that's straight down or straight up. I guess that's two ways. But it can't move to the side. So what happens is you end up, it's always either too wet or too dry, because the water can't move as it naturally does. So in the 1960s, a bunch of horticulture scientists got together, and they invented this kind of stuff in the 50s and 60s. And a lot of these were perfected through the 70s, and they haven't changed much since the 1970s for the last 50 years or so. I see a question in the back.
What's that brand?
There are lots of great brands. This one is called ProMix. P-R-O-M-I-X, ProMix. And ProMix makes several different kinds of ProMix. But for this, a general mix, this is ProMix LP15. LP15. And I got this, there's a famous garden center here in Jackson called Hutto's on Ellis Avenue. And I got it from them, and they've been very good to me, and I'm not afraid to put their name in the video here. They'll do something nice for me someday, I think. So, but this comes, sometimes it comes, like this has been, I've had this bag open for a little while now. So when it is open for a while, or when it's new, sometimes it'll come as chunks like this. And you want to break up these chunks. And that just means playing in the dirt, as it were. Oh, what's dirt? What's the difference between dirt and soil? I like this one too. You know, I don't have too many jokes and too many riddles and things, but that's one I use all the time. Dirt is under your fingernails and on your grandma's carpet, but soil is growing trees and holding up roads and houses. So dirt is just soil out of place. Same as a weed. A weed is a plant out of place. Okay? A weed is a plant out of place. Okay? So that's soil out of place. But this is designed for containers. That's the whole point. You use something that's designed for container farming or container gardening when you're going to use a container. The container almost doesn't matter as much. Small containers. Now, container size matters for, like, you wouldn't want to put one pansy plant in the center of this, because you'd end up overwatering it probably and wasting a lot of space and all that stuff. So you grow that in a smaller pot. You wouldn't want to start seed. You could start things like lettuce seeds in here, but I wouldn't start that. You could start tomatoes in here from seed, but I would start my tomatoes in something like this. I'd take my tomato seeds like this, and I'd fill this with soil. And I never pack it. I never pack that potting mix down. I just level it off, and watering it will naturally, and planting the seeds will naturally pack it down a little bit. They're designed not to be packed down. If you pack them down, then first off, it's springing back to life a little bit, but it also doesn't have as much room for water and air that it needs. It's designed just to be filled in the container and then leveled off. That's all you do with this. So again, with any container, this little one here, we're just gonna fill it up, overfill it a little bit, and then just sweep it off with your hand. And you can use the sawing motion. Sometimes that works for these little pots. Ta-da! And that was easy. Then if I was gonna plant seeds, generally seeds go in how deep? Well, we're gonna do a whole thing on seeding. But generally, I'd make like a 1/4 or a 1/2 inch hole in here, something like that. Can you guys see that in there? See that? And then I'd put 1 or 2 tomato seeds in there. And I'd make a deeper hole if I was gonna grow watermelons or something in here. The bigger the seed, the deeper the hole generally. But never more than about 2 inches deep. Never more than 2 inches deep. So, okay, so that's that. So what do we got? I got a box, I got wheels, I got the grate in the bottom, and I got the watering pipe. And I have that bonnet we're gonna put on at the end. But until we put the bonnet on, it also comes with a little guide on how to assemble it, and a little guide that has assembly and some planting ideas on how to do it. So what we're gonna do is we're going to put soil in here now, the potting mix actually. I keep saying soil, I gotta stop that, right? It's not soil, right? It's not soil, it's soilless mix. I gotta put the media in here, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of fertilizer to the box, and I'm never gonna fertilize again. So this is an organic fertilizer that I've chosen for today. Doesn't have to be, you could use triple 13 or something like that if you wanted to. And I'll show you how that goes in a few minutes here. And then we're gonna plant some tomatoes in this box, and I'm gonna tell you why these tomatoes are appropriate for this box. Then we're gonna plant some dill in the box. Then we're gonna plant some edible flowers. Both marigolds and nasturtiums are edible. This is called nasturtium, and it likes cooler weather, so no promises on the nasturtium, but these will give you beauty, and you break open the petals of a marigold and sprinkle them on a salad and give them to someone that you love, they'll think you're a gourmet. They'll think, and marigold flowers taste innocuous. They don't taste much at all. Lily flowers are edible. You know, like daylilies, those flowers are edible. And if you do a taste test on different colors of lilies, you'll find that some taste more like onions than others. But they're in the onion family, so they taste like onions, okay? There's a bunch of, did you know roses are edible? No. Roses are edible, and rose hip tea is a thing. Rose hip is those the little balls on the little fruit on the bottom of the, after the rose is done. But yeah, rose petals on a salad, someone will think you're special. Someone will think they're special.
So I just noticed that when I'm cutting my grass now, that I'm smelling onions. So a friend of mine came out and said, you know you can eat these onions, right? So of course I did. I pulled some out of the yard, and I diced them up, and I added them to a salad. And they taste just like just your regular green onions that you buy at the store. That is, you come from a food there. You yard too.
Yeah. So that's a wild onion or a wild garlic. The question was, she's eating, for the audience on the video, I'm going to repeat it because I have the microphone. Okay. You found some wild onions in the yard. And wild onions they're everywhere. And they are indeed edible. And they taste and can be used just like chives or scallions, green onions, what we know as green onions, right? Another name for green onions is scallions. We can use them as that. The only caution I'd give you is that if it is two things. One, wash the soil off of them, which is dirt when it's in your kitchen. And then because it's a lawn and we're allowed to put things on lawns that we're not allowed to put on edible crops, you have to be very careful. If you've got a service that's doing your lawn, or if your family has done any treatments to the lawn, you probably don't want to forage off of your lawn. What you did was called foraging, by the way. You were foraging off the soil. You were taking that. But there are so many cool little things. And if you've never just wandered around your garden every day or every other day with a cup of coffee and just looked, it's just fun to do and see the little changes that happen. It's just fun to do. So we're gonna fill this bad boy up here. I'm just gonna, okay, I've done some. Now I'm gonna try not to spill this whole thing. Let's see how I do. Okay, let's see how I've done here. Yeah, and you can dry herbs at home are great. These boxes are great for growing herbs. Different herbs take different situations and different things. I got to make sure this watering tube is in the right spot. So let's make sure that that stayed in the right spot here. This is one of the only hard things about all this. So there we go. Now, I'm stirring this up a little bit. I watered this media earlier because it was a little dry in the box, in the bag. So I watered it for a couple reasons. One, you want a little bit of moisture in the when you put it in there, because if it's too dry, it's really hard to get it wet. Peat moss is hard to wet once it's really, really dry. And two, I'm getting a lot less dust up my nose now with it being a little moist. So there we go. So we're going to fill this up almost to the top. Almost to the top. Let's see how I'm doing here. I'm getting close.
That was going to be one of my questions while you're filling. So when it's really dry, it gets really, really dusty.
Yes. It does get really dusty.
It's just that it's dry.
It's just that it's dry. It's just dry. And this stuff, if you're sensitive to things, you do want to wear a mask with, when you're welcome to wear a mask when you work with this stuff. But it's all natural. This stuff, everything in here, the peat moss comes from old bogs that have been drained up in Canada mostly, and they literally vacuum the top off as it dries out and bale it up. And then they take it to a factory and blend it with these other things. The little white rock here is perlite, I said before, and that's just mined from volcanoes, and then they put it in a really hot oven and it puffs up like popcorn. Same with vermiculite. So I've got that pretty full here now, right? I've got that pretty full. Now I'm gonna make a slit right down the center here. I'm gonna make a slit right down the center, right? And that's where my fertilizer is gonna go. That's where my fertilizer goes. And each of these, if you have a different brand of these boxes, they may have different instructions on how to do this. So follow the instructions on the brand that you have. They're all very similar though. There's a couple famous brands like Earthbox and things. This is very similar to that. This smells like organic fertilizer. So I'm gonna put about 2 cups. And again, I'll wash my hands when I'm done with this, but there's nothing in here that's gonna harm me. So I'm adding, so I don't know, you guys can't see that really. I've got a thing, the strip is about that wide and the fertilizer is about that deep on this. If this was like triple 13, which is higher numbers than this bag does, the higher the number, the less you need, because that means it's more concentrated. So like triple 13, and this is 4.3, yeah. So this is 4.63. So this is about 1/3 as strong in terms of nutrient content as triple 13. So. Yeah, I put a cup and a half or so in there, roughly like that. So now, but it's all in the center, and I don't put it all over the box. That's going to leach out and move nutrients around. Leaching meaning moving around, kind of wicking through it like a candle wick or something like that. Wicking through it. So now I've covered it up, covered all that fertilizer up. Now I've got 3 tomato plants here. This is a variety called Patio, and we used Patio in a smaller demonstration another day, but this is the same idea for this one here. I'm going to plant half the box with these little Patio tomatoes. This is, you could go and get Celebrity or Better Boy or Marion's or some favorite tomato that you have, and you could plant it in here. And with those, I would recommend maybe 2 tomatoes per box, maybe like that on a diagonal. So one in this corner, one in this corner over here, or this way here, because they got the pipe over there. Just 2 of those big ones. This plant here, this tomato here, is only going to grow that big around. Not the fruit, the plant. And then it's going to produce little cherry tomatoes like that. Okay, it's going to produce little cherry tomatoes like that. So And these, you always want to make sure you cover the top of the root ball. The root, right? And you see all the roots in there? See how nice that's holding together? It's not falling apart. I don't know if you guys can see that in the back, but there's all those roots in there, but there's not so many that it's just all roots and almost no soil anymore either. So these are in really good shape right now. Same with this one here. And we're gonna put these in here like this. And I just dug down a little deeper than the depth of that root ball. Pull the soil toward me, put it in, push soil around the top of the root ball. You want that original root ball to be covered with the new soil, with the new mix, okay? So then I'm gonna put another one here. And I'm gonna put the third one over here. That was really fast. That was really fast. Now, I'm gonna get some dill seed here. This is dill, and dill is a pickling spice, right? Dill is also really good on certain fish like salmon, if you've never put dill on salmon. And this is the kind of thing, if you get something like dill, you can dry it. You can hang it upside down, clip it with like a clothespin to a hanger and hang it in the corner of your house and just let it dry down. And when it's crispy dry, then crumble it up and you can do that. Another way to do it is you take the fresh dill and you chop it up a bit and put it in a zipper top bag and then freeze it. Now you've preserved all the oils and it's frozen. Now, these kind of herbs like this, and basil is a really bad one for this, they'll turn really dark green black in the freezer. And they won't look good if you try to use it fresh on the salad or anything like that anymore. But they retain all the oils when you freeze them like that. So you're gonna get all the flavor when you add it to a sauce or something, you'll get all the flavor that was in that original herb. Whereas with drying, we lose some of those oils. So let me show you what these seeds look like. Let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna do it for the camera first. So they look like that. And that's a lot. I'm not gonna use nearly all of those seeds here. I'm gonna walk these around the room real quick so you guys can see what these seeds look like. This is dill seed, D-I-L-L, okay? It's in the carrot family. Anyone like carrots around here? All right. So, does everyone know what a seed is? A seed is a baby plant, right? There's a root in there right now, then there's a shoot in there, and there's actually on most plants, there's 2 leaves in a seed. There's 2 baby seed leaves in the seed, except for grasses, which only have 1. Grasses like corn and sugarcane and stuff, their seeds only have 1 leaf inside. So, but all these others, like marigolds and tomatoes and all the other things, they all have 2 seed leaves in there. And it's all in there right now. And it's just waiting. There are seeds that are thousands of years old. Thousands and thousands of years old that they have unearthed and found in tombs and things. And the seeds grow. As long as they've been preserved in a cool temperature with the right kind of humidity, a seed will last for a long, long time. Some seeds don't, like sweet corn seeds, onion seeds. They don't last worth a darn. A year or 2 down the road, you can't get them to come up in most soils. Watermelon seeds are another one, especially the seedless watermelon seeds. Seedless watermelon seeds are very tricky. I don't recommend doing those until you're an expert seed person. So I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna make a little furrow here, a little furrow which is a line in the soil. And I'm gonna make this, it's maybe a ½ inch deep. And I'm gonna sprinkle some of these seeds in here. I'm probably putting 1 seed every 2 inches or so, 1 seed every inch. And I'll end up thinning that, meaning after they start growing and I've got those first seed leaves came up and then another leaf comes up, I'll pick the strongest 3 or 4 seedlings and I'll leave those and I'll pinch out all the rest. You have to be ruthless in horticulture sometimes. You have to be willing to let go. So it's not worth trying to transplant them or anything. So on this, I do pat it down just slightly. So that's the dill. So that's the dill. I got to try and get these others back in the box here. Let's see if I can get them back in there. Yeah, they're in there. I made I made between these 2. There's a line in there, and the seeds are in there. I'm going to do the same thing here in a minute with the marigold seeds, and you can film that in a sec, if you want. Let's see if I can get these things back in. Anyone have a question while I'm messing with these?
So when you plant watermelon seeds,
Okay, so the question was, with watermelon seeds, do you have to germinate them and grow a transplant first, or
Can you plant
Well, can you-
the seeds straight out of the packet, or do you have to wet them and let them germinate overnight?
no? So you don't have to wet a watermelon seed and germinate and let it swell up overnight. The only one we recommend that for is okra. Okra seeds, and believe it or not, these nasturtium seeds are the other one that benefit from taking them out, putting them in a little dish, putting them in a ½ inch of water, and letting them sit overnight before you plant them.
Okay.
So nasturtiums and okra. Everything else, no, you can directly seed the watermelons. If you try to grow seedless watermelons, you really have to grow them from transplants that you have to start inside, and they take really high heat to germinate. So you got to like put them on the dryer or someplace, or on top of the TV, an old style TV, where they're going to be warm. So, because they really need like 85 degrees to germinate. So to germinate well, seedless watermelons, just buy the seedless watermelons plant someplace else. Now, these marigold seeds are completely different. I'm going to show these to the camera here. See how different those are from the dill seeds? And I'm going to walk these around before I put them in. Okay? So, and I have no idea how much time I have, but that's okay. See how different they are?
What kind of those again?
These are marigold seeds. These are marigold seeds, and they're about as different from any other seed that you're ever going to see. Dandelion seeds are a lot like this. If you think about dandelion seeds, why do dandelion seeds blow around? Why can you blow on a That's to move the seeds. That's just that's to spread the plant. That's an evolutionary thing to spread the plant. So rather than having all the seeds just fall off like these marigold seeds, you're just going to fall at the base of your marigold. Whereas a dandelion seed, it can travel hundreds of feet in the air on that little puffy dandelion thingy that it's got. And then the base of that is a seed, just like these. So I'm gonna make another little line in here, again about ½ inch deep. And I'm gonna do something a little different with these. I'm gonna sprinkle some in here. I'm gonna spread these out. These tend to stick together, so I gotta look at that.
So I have some white buckets, right, that I use to plant in.
Yes.
Do I plant, is there a specific paint, black paint that I can use that won't be toxic for my plant?
No.
Plant on the inside, or plant to make paint on the inside or the outside of the bucket?
No, none of most of the, I can't think of, other than like road tar, there's nothing that's going to hurt your plants in a paint bucket these days once it dries.
Okay.
And I would paint the inside of the bucket so it doesn't wear out. If you paint the outside, it's going to wear out and look bad. With the bucket, make sure you drill holes in a bucket.
Yeah, I'm already in the hole.
Excellent. And for those of you that want to put bigger holes in your bucket, if you start with a small drill first, you're less likely to crack the bottom of the bucket than you will by starting with a big drill bit. Okay? Now, so I've done this over here, but I want my box to be decorative. So I'm going to put another couple marigolds next to this tomato here. And I'm going to put another one in this corner over here. And I think I'm going to put a couple right here and a couple here. So now I have marigolds there. And now I'm going to take a couple of these nasturtium seeds. And these may not do for me, but gardening is about having fun, and so is farming sometimes. And I'm going to put some nasturtium seed there, and some nasturtium seed there, about 2 in each spot. And I think I'm going to call that done. I'm going to bury those, tap those down a little bit. Now,
I'm just taking a picture.
on this, I'm going to water this with the daisy on. Remember that thing, the daisy? I'm going to water this with the little thing on, and I'm going to give these tomatoes a really good drink. And then I'm going to go over where I made my rows of seeds. And over where I put those nasturtiums on the corners and on the sides. And I'm going to use, believe it or not, I'm going to use this whole can of water in here. I'm going to use this whole can of water. This media holds about 5 times its weight in water. So it holds a lot. This container will hold about 2 or 3 gallons of water in this mix. So that's not even done yet. So after we're done filming and stuff, then I'm going to take and I don't have much water left in the can, but you see that little hole there? I talked about that earlier, right? Take this here, and I'm just going to line that up with the pipe here, and I'm going to drain some more water into that pipe. That's all going to the bottom of this to serve to water from the bottom. And that's going to, the media is going to soak it up from the bottom and wick it up to the top. And so all these plants will be fine. Now, no, I mean, is it a self-watering container? It's like this? Yeah, if it's got a little stopper, you may want to pull that off. So is it right at the bottom, or is it, but up from the bottom a little bit, like this one is? Yeah, you want to pull that off so that water will drain. It won't always fill up with water. The whole container won't fill up, because like this is going to grow outside. This is going to grow outside. So now we have a little bit of a challenge here, because I could have put this on before I put the seeds in and stuff, but I didn't. But that's okay. It's okay. This is the bonnet for the whole thing. And this bonnet fits around like that. And then I take my knife, which I left over here. Okay. Always be careful when you're using a knife. I've got a tomato plant right here. And I'm going to make like a little X or a little Y or something that I can get around the tomato plant. Okay, now I'm just going to bring that tomato plant through this. Yeah, so I don't want to leave the plant underneath this thing here, so I'm going to bring it out like that. And you could do this beforehand. You put the bonnet on and then make holes and then plant your plant through the holes. And that's actually a better way than we've done it here today, but I wanted to show you guys the soil and all of that stuff. And you guys will pardon me.
So I have 2 questions.
2 questions, yes. What are your questions?
So one, I noticed that you didn't disturb the root ball. I was always taught that you want to break that apart. So does it matter which way you do that? Or is it best to let it stay undisturbed and just plant it? That's
a great question. The question was, do we disturb the root ball or not? Which is the latter is what I did here. I didn't disturb the root ball. You don't have to unless it is what's called root bound. And then you do want to break it up a little bit. But these weren't root bound, and those roots in a week, they'll be 6 inches out in the soil here in a week. They'll start taking off really fast. They'll take off really fast. But on a root-bound plant, you do. On squashes and watermelons, when you have them, they don't like their roots bothered at all. So you want to keep that root ball intact as much as you can when you put it in the soil. Okay.
So my second question, I noticed when you water, you just kind of water the whole plant. And with that, I was taught that you want to water your soil and not your plant. So does that matter when you're starting something like this, or does it matter at all?
So this question was, I watered everything. I watered over the top of the plant. I watered the soil mix, all that stuff. Does that matter, or should I have kept the plant dry? If this was the end of the afternoon, like late in the day, and I had a potted plant, I don't, I said this in the previous video, I love to quote Miss Cindy on this. Don't put the baby to bed wet. Okay? So at night, we never get the plants wet, like after 3 in the afternoon, because overnight, the fungus will grow on the leaves, on those wet leaves, and they won't have a chance to dry out. In the morning, they have all day to dry out, so you're not going to have a problem. But in the evening, we never want to put the baby to bed wet, so we always keep the leaves dry in the evening. This is going to go out in full sun in a little bit here, and it's going to be fine the way it is. Now, I haven't cut the slit for these plants over here. I'm going to leave this like this for a few days, like 3 or 4 days, until the seeds start coming up. Then I'm going to pull the bonnet back, and I'm going to kind of map where they are, maybe use toothpicks or something. And then I'm going to cut some holes where I'm going to let those plants grow up through this bonnet. The reason I'm having the bonnet on here, keeps more moisture in the thing, keeps weeds from getting into the soil mix and growing in here. It's just, and it kind of looks good too. This cinches up, it's got a little cinch cord here, and spring-loaded cinch cord. So now I can't even pull the bonnet off. It's yours to do with what you want. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. You can do what you want. The only thing that this needs now for the life of the time, these tomatoes will start flowering in about 10 days. They're about 10 or 15 days, they'll start flowering. And another 30 days after that, we'll have tomatoes. So 40, 45 days, there'll be tomatoes in this box. Yeah. Same time, about 40 days from now, the marigolds will start flowering. Okay. And in 50 or 60 days, the marigolds will be this big around and just filling up the whole box. Really cool. This needs to be, anytime you're growing fruit, anything, cucumbers, watermelons, tomatoes, peppers, anything with fruit on it, anything that makes a seeded vegetable, you want to make sure that's in full sun. Leaves and roots, they can tolerate less than 6 hours of full sun. They can be grown in less than 6 hours of full sun a day. You could grow this under lights inside the house. You could have a nice set of fluorescent lights about a foot above this and grow it, or LED type lights over this, and you could do that, it'd be great. So that's the big box. This box, kind of heavy for a small person, or even me, to move around. It's got wheels and I can shuttle it around. They make a smaller one. Let me show you this smaller one. This little guy is the same thing, about half the size. This is great for like a window side or a porch side. You can fill it with marigolds or something like that. Or you could grow lettuces. These things grow lettuces really well.